Hello and welcome to this third edition of Kornit UK Live. Today we're in Blackburn, hosted at our customer site, Inkthreadable. I'm really looking forward to today's conversation. Before I do that and hand over, I'd like to take you just on a little bit of a recap on the objective of these series of events that we're hosting at our customer sites. It's really important to showcase their capabilities at the same time as discussing the challenges that we all face in the fashion supply chain industry. So you may remember, if you joined us on the first two editions, we were joined by David Ray, an industry veteran of brands such as Levi's and resellers like Marks & Spencer's. Luke Russell, also of Hype, of the head of design at Hype, and they're discussing things like overproduction and wastage and returns as well. And then we were joined at our second edition with our own Scott Walton, head of business development, and Simon Platts, who's the ESG or former ESG and sustainability director at ASOS. Again, further magnifying those challenges. So I'm really excited today to listen to this conversation with Alex, who's the managing director and co-founder at Inkthreadable, and also one of his customers who's transitioning to a pure on-demand digital brand. So just before I hand over to Ben Hansen, who's the editor-in-chief of the Interline, a technology magazine, really interesting with Ben, 14 years experience around technology fashion supply chain. But before I do that, I'm going to hand over and showcase a video of Alex's fantastic capabilities at Inkthreadable. Roll the video, please.
Hi, I'm Alex Cunliffe, a co-founder at Inkthreadable, and welcome to our facility in Blackburn. We're an on-demand company specialised in e-commerce orders, and we're going to show you the production process of how we do that today. And we're going to start by showing you our goods in process in our warehouse. We're a completely paperless warehouse environment. Every product that we produce is controlled by barcodes that are applied onto each t-shirt in the baskets that you'll see on screen. We're going to move on now to the Kornit Atlas Max machine on the production floor. We're here on the production floor taking a look at the Kornit Atlas Max machine. This machine is our primary driver for t-shirt production for on-demand orders. Using this machine, we're bringing high-quality retail-ready products to small independent brands through our on-demand service. Using batches that were prepared in the warehouse earlier, we've fully automated the production process and the workflow for the designs and the printing of these orders. Now, we're going to take a look at quality control and dispatch and take a look at how these orders get prepared to leave our facility and get delivered to the customers that ordered online. We're here at our dispatch department where all of the products that we've produced earlier in the process have been quality checked, consolidated, and are now being prepared for dispatch. During dispatch, we're producing automatic personalized delivery notes so the end user receives a customized delivery experience. Up to this point, we're a completely paperless production process, and then we introduce our paper-based packaging and shipping labels here. Our packaging is completely free from plastic and has been since 2018. We're dispatching with multiple couriers throughout the day so that we can provide the best value and speed for customers all around the world. Thank you for coming with me through our tour of our facility at Inkthreadable. We're a print-on-demand company for online sellers, brands and creators to sell printed products online. We offer automatic integrations with the leading e-commerce platforms to make it a hands-off process for you to sell these products.
Okay, welcome back, folks. Now you've seen a little bit about Inkthreadable. I've got the privilege of talking to Alex, who is one of the co-founders of Inkthreadable, and James Fryer, who is the owner of T-me, which is the brand that makes use of Inkthreadable services. Phil mentioned in his introduction, I've got something like 14 years in the technology side of fashion, the supply chain. In that period, there's been a pretty big transition from heavily analog supply chains through to much more digital supply chains. A lot of that has been to address challenges, right? A lot of that has been to address issues around speed, around sustainability, around inventory. Some of the more exciting stuff is happening around unlocking completely new business models, right? Completely new possibilities, completely different routes to market that would not exist under a traditional analog model. So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about it from the perspective of what it means to be a partner and a service provider and a print-on-demand company that unlocks some of those possibilities, And we're going to talk a bit about what it means to be a brand that takes advantage of those and that is actually built on those new business models. And I'm going to start that conversation by asking you a question, Alex. So we've seen what Inkthreadable is. We understand from the video that we've just seen how it works. Tell us a bit about your journey. How did you end up starting the company, which I think is 10 years ago?
Yep.
And what was the vision, and how has that vision sort of changed and evolved in the last decade?
Sure. So about 13 to 15 years ago, I was printing t-shirts with my wife, Amy, and selling them on eBay. We were selling direct to consumer, producing our own designs and selling those through online retail channels. But we was printing all of the t-shirts ourselves and printing them on demand. Mm-hmm. We just didn't coin that term at that time. And come to 2012, 2013, we discovered the opportunity that we had to supply brands like James with a print-on-demand service and become a service provider. So in 2013, we formed Inkthreadable as a company, and by 2015, we'd switched off any direct-to-consumer sales channels that we had and moved all in to print-on-demand. Our first major step within that was integrating with Shopify to build a self-service platform within the space.
Okay, perfect. And James, tell us a bit about your journey in fashion and how you ended up starting T-me. What was the market opportunity that you saw? And same question, like how have things changed since that initial vision?
Yeah, so very similar to Alex actually. I left university and I thought I always want to work for myself, so I was looking at opportunities. Kind of stumbled across this new printing capability, digital printing onto garments. Thought, wow, that's really interesting. Did a bit of research, invested in a startup, small desktop printer that would allow me to print anything a customer wanted onto a t-shirt, and started T-me from there really. So yeah, and I mean, to be honest, there were lots of teething problems. The technology was in its infancy, and yeah, it was a challenge to say the least, but yeah.
Okay, perfect. And before I forget, for everybody watching, I've got a bunch of questions that I want to put to Alex and James. Anyone who has any questions who's watching this, there's a few different platforms that this is live streamed on. Make sure you put those questions through, and we'll have a chance to address all of those at the end. Any that we don't get a chance to go through, then we'll tackle those via email, or people take those questions offline afterwards. Alex, this one is to you. So when you think about the model that you've just described and what you started, which is print on demand, it's kind of the opposite of the analog supply chain in a lot of ways. If you're a brand or you're somebody starting a brand, you're going to be looking at high minimum order quantities, long lead times, like quite opaque routes to market. What you have is the opposite of that. And I think it's interesting because you started without any of that legacy. You were not in the traditional fashion supply chain. So this is the only way that you've ever known it. And I think some people who do have that traditional legacy, they'll be looking at the Inkthreadable model and thinking, can this scale? How does this grow? Is this something that can support larger brands? So from smaller brands right the way up. So tell me a bit about your perspective on the scaling side of things.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one because it is a valid concern where people see print on demand and think it's for businesses in their infancy. Yeah. But that is totally not true now. At one point, that was a limitation of print on demand, but with the developments in technology that companies like Kornit provide, we're now investing as a supplier in the best equipment in the industry to be able to produce retail-ready products, as I said in the VT at the start of the discussion, to small independent brands. Yeah. And what that's unlocking is small independent brands, whether it's from day one or whether they're just in their infancy, to build a product collection that is fully formed. They've got many designs, many products, and they're looking like a very established business with a digital supply chain in the back end. Mm-hmm. They're essentially selling virtual products, and we're producing the physical product after the sale. But the important part to that is the product quality that we're producing is the top of the industry as a retail-ready product.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. So I think people get very fixated on the economics of this kind of thing. They get very fixated on, well, this is an industry that is only set up for bulk production, whereas your model is demonstrating that actually from a garment decoration point of view at least, that's definitely not the case. It's economically viable, it's creative, and it's qualitatively viable as well.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. James, you spent a bunch of time in digital print before starting T-me. So I think you said around 2007. So you've had a whole journey away from digital towards analog. So you went through a period of using traditional kind of screen printing.
Indeed.
And you've now looped back around to digital. What was it that's changed from the process point of view or from the technology point of view that's given you that kind of trust again in digital?
Okay, so just to give you some context, some history. So 2007 we started digitally printing. The technology just wasn't there. It was too slow, it was too unreliable. I then started working with a screen printer. So for many years we were screen printing our items, selling them online, and our business really took off. But then recently, in the last, say, sort of 3, 4, 5 years, we've had to look back at digital because just to keep up with competition, basically. Customers are wanting full colour designs, and it's just not viable to traditionally screen print those designs, you know. So we started to look at what options there were digitally. And as a business, I could have invested in entry-level equipment and done it ourselves, or I could partner with somebody like Alex and Inkthreadable. And by doing that, I'm leveraging, you know, the latest in digital printing technology through Kornit, and it's something that as a business I didn't want to do, and so I'm able to leverage it through Alex's business, basically.
Yeah, I think that's interesting from 2 points of view, because it's almost like a chicken and egg problem, where if you're a brand and you want to be able to take advantage of high quality print on demand, you need to be able to go to a partner that offers that kind of thing. But you as the partner need to set that up in advance and speculatively for the brands to come to you. But the quality side of things is really interesting, because Alex gave us a tour earlier around the facility. We saw the Atlas Max running at kind of full capacity, full throughput and everything. And we took a look at the quality of the prints coming out of those. And that, from your perspective, and I think from mine as well, it's a bit of a wake-up call where you say, well, these are coming out and they are 100% trustworthy. That's not something where you're going to see a huge amount of variability. So does the technology itself give you that extra trust?
100%, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, for years I've flirted with the idea of going back to digital, and I was never quite sure about the quality of the print, and I think I have no issues and no concerns anymore, because time and time again the print is fantastic, and that's the most important thing as a brand owner. You know, I can put my trust into Alex and the technology, and I know that my customers are getting perfect prints every time, which is all that I ask for. So
Yeah, I mean, to add to that, we've been working together for some time now, and the feedback that we see from James's customers as reviewing on his products vouches for that trust that James has in us and our product.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I think a lot of what you're doing, Alex, kind of really, it challenges in a good way, like the role of a supply chain partner, the role of like a production partner there, because it's very obvious that you guys work very closely together. You've mentioned you have that kind of relationship around feedback from customers and what have you. Tell me a bit about what Inkthreadable does beyond the core print side of things, what it means to be more of like a full service partner, from like warehousing and distribution and inventory and any other services.
So the core thing that Inkthreadable is looking after for brands is the operational supply chain. It is stock management, it is purchasing and procurement, it is the production process to produce that high quality product, and it's the logistics to have that delivered in a very good value but high speed by a courier with those characteristics. And we're looking after all of that. That's our core principle, and that's where we have a lot of expertise. But in addition to that, we're working with lots of small and startup brands that are also new to this industry. So we bring our expertise from our team to those brands to help them grow faster and help them make decisions that they need to make with a more educated manner. So with our customer service team, with our integration help that we offer, and with the integrations that we've built to be able to automate order management between the platforms, we're providing a full wraparound service with that expertise from different people within our team.
Yeah, very much so. And James, similar question from your perspective there, because there's a lot of what Alex just described, which is not, if you want to run a brand, if you want to focus on the core creative side of running a brand, a lot of that stuff is not direct value add. It's not kind of, it's your overhead, if you like, right? It's the bits that come around and after you've done the core creative activities. So what does it mean from your side to be able to have that taken care of in a trustworthy way that covers the technology and the print, but it covers the broader service and the partnership as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I got to a point with my brand that I was too involved in the business, the day-to-day stuff, and now outsourcing not only the print, but the fulfillment. I don't have to hold stock and inventory anymore, which is great from an overhead perspective. And it just allows me to concentrate my time and effort onto the income generation tasks. So creating new designs, marketing, the things I enjoy, to be honest with you, and that I want to push forwards, knowing full well that I've got a partner that can take care of the, shall we say, the nuts and bolts, the nitty gritty of it all. So it allows me, I'm not just leveraging the technology that Alex and Inkthreadable use, I'm also leveraging his team as well, you know, their expertise and all of the processes that they have in place, I get to take advantage of as a brand, which is fantastic. So it keeps me lean as a company, and it allows me to expand and concentrate my efforts on the parts of the business that I want to, basically.
Yeah, no, and I think that's incredibly valuable, because if you're a brand, whether you're in garment decoration or whether you're actually making clothing from scratch, there's a huge amount of stuff that is not really your direct concern, or is not part of the core creation. It's not part of the core vision. It's the mechanics and the logistics of bringing something to market. And if you can find a trustworthy partner who can take on the mechanics and the logistics, and who has their own forward-thinking ways of doing things from a technology point of view, that's the kind of relationship that probably should define the way a digital supply chain looks. I think the other thing, Alex, we talked a bit about scale before. I think it's important to note that we're here in the UK, and you're a UK company, you're a UK brand. There's a lot of talk in general across fashion, garment decoration, elsewhere, about reshoring, about bringing kind of production, bringing capacity back into the UK. What does it look like from your point of view, and what does it mean to you to be doing that at scale here in the UK?
Yeah, so we see a number of different benefits in print on demand, but with slight different use cases to utilize that and to improve that process in the supply chain. The first is a complete on-demand digital service like we provide to James, where we're integrating with e-commerce sites, we're receiving orders in real time, we're producing them only after the sale is made, and then drop shipping directly to the end user. That is the core of our service. That is what we are specialist and expert at. But how we're also seeing print on demand work for brands is, particularly brands with custom-made garments, that the garments are now being made blank overseas and then brought into the UK. And then they're only being decorated in short run, and that stock being replenished in a really quick cycle. So brands are not limiting their stock to one design. So if that design is unpopular, they're not having to lose stock. Yeah. And then they're replenishing that quickly to put them back on sale. And this is working really well in offline markets, in pop-up shops, in retail shops. And it's a transition that we've seen work really well, and I think has a lot of potential for future scale as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's no avoiding the fact that the fashion industry as a whole has a huge problem with waste and with overproduction, right? And being able to turn that key of domestic, like print on demand, that's an important part of it. And I think just one thing you said I wanted to zero in a little bit is, I mentioned the traditional supply chain is quite opaque and quite difficult to trace. The digital supply chain there, so once you receive a product in, a blank product in, then all of that is traceable for your brand. They can see everything that's going on. What about the products themselves before they come to you? So the blanks that you buy, have you got visibility into where they come from, and that you can then give your brand partners the confidence that they're printing on a sustainable, eco-friendly kind of base? Yeah,
so we work with a number of different blank garment brands that we're controlling in our catalogue to bring to brands and merchants. We have certain categorizations of brands depending on needs of our customers. So we work with brands, for example, like Stanley Stella, who have a very sustainable and ethical product, and are fantastic in the imprints market for their quality. But what we're doing as a company is we're bringing the product into our catalogue and then making that available to merchants as an on-demand product, rather than the customer defining exactly which product they need and then going out and sourcing it.
Which makes the most sense. One of the other things we talked about when we did the factory tour before was kind of seasonal capacity and elasticity and flexibility. Now, James, as a brand owner, you told me when we chatted a while ago about how severe the kind of Q4 holiday sort of rush can be, especially when you're running things yourself, right? Especially so if you had everything all under one roof and you were trying to do production, you were trying to do inventory, you were trying to do distribution, you were trying to do customer service, all of that kind of stuff. Working with Alex and the team at Inkthreadable, how has that changed the way you think about being able to grow and cope in a flexible way that kind of scales up with seasons and then scales down?
Yeah. I mean, so as you alluded to, Q4 is very important to brands. It goes mad, to be honest with you. You can't cope with the demand, which is fantastic. I mean, last year, before we partnered with Alex and Inkthreadable, we had a ceiling. We were limited. You know, I had some seasonal staff come in, but ultimately there was a capacity that we could work to. Whereas now I'm excited about this year because I feel like we can really push the sales and drive the demand because the capacity's there through Inkthreadable, which is, as a brand, is fantastic. Being able to know that capacity's there.
Yeah.
So.
And Alex, what does it look like for you to get to the stage where James can just turn that key and say, okay, if I need that capacity, it's there for me? What does it actually look like for you to to plan for and to have the flexibility to allow that kind of elasticity?
Yeah, so I mean, for us in our business, Q4, November, December is our busiest time of year. It brings unique challenges, but it's also the most exciting period of the year in terms of scale. But one thing that we realize and appreciate as a company is that for companies like James, this is also their busiest time. It's where they're going to bring a lot of the income for their brands for the year and provide them opportunities for next year. So our Q4 prep starts between May and June, where we're starting to plan sales forecasts. We're working very closely with clients like James on planning the marketing campaigns and how that's going to affect their overall sales. So we start planning very early, and then we have a lot of things that we plug in for forecasting. Our biggest thing that we need to be conscious of is that we need to be really agile in scaling up and down. But that's not restricted to Q4 either, is because we're on demand, we don't have kind of a sales book that's filled for the next 3 months. We don't know what could come in tomorrow. And that could be one client going viral that's a content creator, or it could be a sports event going live that's been pre-planned for the last 3 months. Yep. So whilst we have some visibility, tomorrow could also bring new challenges or new opportunities in terms of scale. So as a business, we've got to be agile up and down, and kind of having a core benchmark in terms of operational capacity, and then flexibility around that allows us to be able to scale up for brands as they grow.
Yeah, because you're presumably upping your own ordering of blanks and things ahead of time as well. So there's a huge amount of prediction from your side that goes into being able to provide that level of turnkey service. But that is increasingly something that the industry needs, because as the team at Kornit know, everybody knows, things are much more tightly driven by trend, right? Things are much more closely influenced by trend. You, earlier on, James, you mentioned the idea of selling through TikTok as an example. And to me, somebody who doesn't use TikTok personally, but I know it is a very close driver of production and demand. And being able to meet that and do it quickly is a major deal. We talked before, Alex, about this being the 10th year of Inkthreadable, something you've been doing for a while. And I know in that period you've been focused on being this kind of reactive partner to emerging brands and smaller brands that want to scale. Tell me what your plan is for the next kind of 10 years, because I know we've talked a little bit about scaling for larger brands. What does that look like, and where do things go from here?
Yeah, so our first 10 years is where we've kind of built the foundations of Inkthreadable, particularly the last 5, where we've been investing heavily in Kornit machinery, larger premises, more inventory, and building the foundations of our business to be able to scale. So the first 10 years, we've really helping brands start and help them through the early days and grow their business. But our next 10 years, where we've upped our capacity, we've increased our knowledge and expertise, is about us helping brands scale, where we're bringing new services and new products to market, and we're bringing them with much higher capacities. So that's the direction I see Inkthreadable over the next 10 years. Whilst we'll always support small independent brands get started, and that will always be a function of our business because it's part of who we are the opportunities that we bring in terms of being able to scale because of the equipment that we've invested in will kind of unlock and turn some keys for new opportunities as well.
I agree, and I think as well you also have much larger brands who might be looking at doing something of this type as a segment of their business. So you've got kind of folks who are scaling upwards, and then you've got larger brands who are also thinking about that possibility of doing that reshoring that we're talking about, doing those short production runs, getting things to market quicker and more closer to the consumer?
So what we're seeing with that, it's a really good point to bring up, is brands that still use a traditional analog supply chain, because it suits their business well, are restricted in some circumstances for reactive design, where an event happens and there is a monumental moment that wants to be celebrated. To facilitate that in merchandise through a traditional supply chain takes too long, and the trend is over by the time the stock is in the country. Whereas now, within minutes of an event happening, we can have a design online live and a number of different products for sale to celebrate that moment right when it's in the consumer's mind.
Yeah, and everyone's going to be familiar with the Barbie example recently. There are a bunch of forecasters and planners in brands who saw that coming, and then they ended up with the right products in store to capitalize on it. There are a bunch of forecasters who didn't expect that film to be as big as it was, and therefore they don't have the products in store to capitalize on it. The only way to bridge the gap where your forecasting does not align with actual demand is to have production that more closely aligns with actual demand.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
And I can testify to that because there are many occasions where I've been able to jump on a trend, if you like, and offer a design literally within a day, because I know that the service is there. So it's, No,
that's a great point. I think we can't sort of point to this short timeline enough. So when we were going around the facility before, so let's say you've got a design done in a day, your kind of target time is 3 days turnaround from there. So you factor in some time for distribution and everything. You're talking about less than a week to get a design from the concept stage, from an idea in your head, into consumers' hands.
Correct.
Yeah, and that all of which is made possible with digital print on demand. How does that change the way you think about the next 10 years then? Because you've got to the stage now where you've tried the analog way, back on the digital way, you've got the trust that you can place in that, you've got the partnership with Alex. How does that change the way you think about growth and about possibilities?
I know from Alex's point of view that he's at the forefront of advancement in the technology. We look today at the embroidery machine that colours the colours the thread, and that's something that I don't offer at the moment, but that's something that I can offer because Inkthreadable offers it. And so I know I can expand T-me into the different products that I can offer my customers without having to make that investment in the technology myself. So that's amazing for me as a brand. Also, I can start other brands and look to use other channels. We mentioned TikTok. I've just started a TikTok shop recently because I think it's going to be an area of growth for our brand. So I think from a practical point of view, partnering with Inkthreadable, it's just given me time. And as a small business owner, having time is the most valuable thing you can possibly have. And so to have my time back to concentrate on design and the bit that I enjoy and looking after my customers, it's just invaluable. And yeah, I'm excited for the next 10 years because I don't feel like my hands are behind my back anymore, if that makes sense. I feel a bit freed by it, and yeah,
it does, because I think
it's working for me.
I've spoken to a lot of small brands at events and things over the last year or so who their only way to market is to align themselves with the traditional supply chain, is to meet minimum order quantities, is to forge partnerships that are based on bulk production, and they happen overseas in order to be affordable, and they have long timelines and everything else. Like that possibility space where you're just your hands are free, you're able to think and you're able to act on that. That's all new opportunity that's unlocked by thinking about things digitally. Sustainability, I just want to ask you both a bit of a question about, because we talked about the kind of the profile of the blanks that you're ordering in. There's also the broader waste question and everything else like that. James, this is something we talked about a little bit before. When you start to deliver on kind of really trend-driven products and personalized product, things like that, kind of inherently that is less likely to end up being thrown away. It's less likely to end up as waste because it's personalized, because it's something people identify with. But the broader key to turn is the whole on-demand thing, because you're not making to inventory, you're not making to stock, you're not putting things in a warehouse for months based on forecasted demand. How do you think about, I'll go to you, Alex, first. How do you think about the sustainability side of all of this?
Yeah, so first we can look at the natural consequence in terms of improvement to sustainability of print on demand. Yeah. And that comes with not having overstock. Excuse me. So by only producing orders after the sale has happened, all of the blank stock that we carry is undecorated, meaning its future use isn't restricted to the brand that produced it. So if we do happen to have overstock of a product that's been discontinued, that product can still have a life ahead of it as a blank product. Yeah. And it has a huge opportunity. Secondly is that because we produce only after the sale, we don't have any overstock if a design is discontinued by a brand or a client, which typically we would look at in the fashion industry would just be destroyed, or potentially sold as end of season, but
sent to outlets or something.
Yeah. So the only textile waste that we carry, that we have or produce, is product that doesn't pass quality control, isn't good enough for sale. So with that selection of items, we send off for recycling that gets shredded and has a second life. There's a number of different uses, completely destroyed but reproduced into another item. So that's how we manage our waste, manage to reduce our waste as a print-on-demand company. Then we look at alternative solutions that we've had to sustainability. And I think that sustainability is a path to improvement. It is never going to be perfect, but leading in the right direction is the right thing to do. So in 2017, 2018, we completely stripped plastic away from all of our outbound packages. And that continues today, where we only use paper or cardboard-based materials.
And from your point of view, James, like how big of a decision-making criterion is sustainability for your customers, do you think? Like being able to know, having that confidence from the partnership with Inkthreadable, is that, I'm guessing that matters a great deal to people.
100%, yeah. I mean, that was one of the reasons I chose Inkthreadable as a partner, because it's important to our values as a company. We use organic t-shirts, the blanks. The print is eco-friendly, water-based. The packaging is non-plastic, as Alex said. All those things are really important to me and to our brand, and so the fact that that's already set up for us is fantastic.
No, that makes a ton of sense. From a technology perspective, then, because you mentioned your history in digital print, and I know you're in the business here. You will have been through a few generations of different digital printers until you arrive at the Atlas Max that we saw before. What do you want to see happen next from a technology perspective? What else do you think print on demand can unlock, or what would you like to see it unlock?
So more of what we've seen over the past 5 years with Kornit. So that what we have seen and what we continue to see is improvements in output and efficiency, and cost and quality. So output, cost, and quality are our three driving factors in a decision of investment. And Kornit have made improvements to each of those. And I can only see them getting more enhanced over the next few years. But what would be nice to see is more technological integration with the rest of the workflow as well. So and we already do some of this at Inkthreadable, but by that machine integrating with the previous and post steps of its production helps us build a more efficient workflow.
Okay. And from your perspective, James, what any other kind of possibilities, anything you would like print on demand to be able to deliver?
Like Alex said, I mean, speed and quality, would be useful. Obviously, the quicker that you can produce something, and if the quality can get even better, which is fantastic at the moment. So it's only beneficial to the garments that are produced that are then go on to my customers. I think maybe a wider colour gamut. Maybe I think if it's possible to do. I think you mentioned neons. There's capability to do neon colours and maybe metallics. I don't know if it's possible now or in the future. But I also know that partnering with Alex, it's not something that I necessarily have to worry about too much, because I know that Alex is on top of that side of things, and so
I think that's the coolest thing to see, is that you're just thinking creatively, and you're not thinking about the infrastructure, you're not thinking about the technology, you're not thinking about production. It's just you're able to take advantage of what's there and what's offered by companies like Inkthreadable. I think we might have a couple of audience questions, so I will. Phil, what do we got?
Okay, we've got a number of questions actually. We'll start off in a provocative space from Stephen Cook. He's not said where he is. He's coming through our Vimeo platform. What are your thoughts on DTF taking over this space?
It's an interesting transition. So I'll take that question first, I guess. But DTF is unlocking a real low kind of barrier to enter the industry.
It is.
In digital printing. There are certain objections I have in terms of the discussion around the sustainability, with a lot of plastic waste being produced per print, but I'm also seeing things in the industry that are improving upon that as well. So it is extremely new to the industry as a widespread, high-scale production method, but it is bringing high opportunities to a lot of businesses, I think. But there's a bit of disparity in quality that I think will be improved over the next few years between that and direct-to-garment.
Okay. And what about you, James?
Yeah, I mean, I've actually used DTF previous to coming over to Alex. And I was quite impressed with the quality. Like Alex says, there's quite a lot of waste material as part of the process. But for me, it was I was still involved too much in the process, and our team was. And so, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's definitely an interesting sort of move that I didn't necessarily see coming. But and as you said, Alex, it's good for startups because it's quite an easy thing to get into, and you could hold stock of, in a sense, transfers rather than garments. Yeah, so I don't know where it will go.
No, I think there are probably a lot of brands of various sizes out there who are thinking about it from a sampling perspective, for instance, and like cutting down speed from that side of things. Cool. Phil, what else do we have?
Next question comes from America. We've got quite a number of different viewers across several different countries at the moment, which is great. This comes from Bob Heltoski. How many pieces, and I think this is actually could be aimed at both Alex and James, so I'll take it one at a time. How many pieces of t-shirts or garments are you producing, and how are you obtaining your customers? I think you kind of covered some of that through. It was an early question, but maybe a recap.
So Inkthreadable is based as a business-to-business service. We're dealing with merchants and brands, and we're integrated with some of the world's leading e-commerce platforms, such as Shopify, WooCommerce, Etsy, TikTok Shop, and they bring us a lot of traction in terms of growth.
So we've got our own website, but to be honest, Etsy is probably our biggest marketplace where we get our sales from. So again, just kind of we're leveraging the natural customers that are on Etsy. You know, they're on there looking for gifts and certain products, and so we're able to offer a solution for that. So yeah, we're just taking advantage, if you like, of that platform and the people that are on there.
I think what's really interesting when you're thinking about kind of an emerging brand versus an established one is established ones are having to find new ways to acquire customers, right? Like if you're an established brand, you have your direct to consumer, you've got your wholesale network, you've got your retail channels. You're going to find it a lot harder to capitalize on some of those opportunities than an emerging brand that has access to this kind of turnkey digital side of things, right? Phil.
Okay. This comes from, next one is from London, Claire Tchaikovsky, founder and CEO of Human Milk Clothing. Claire, if I pronounce your name incorrectly, I apologise. Alex, can you print on all type of textiles and styles like marl, or would that still have to be screen printed?
No, so we have quite a wide range of fabric that we do print onto. It is primarily cotton based, but cotton blends are fine as well. So if we look at a marl, like a grey marl, that is absolutely fine. It's typically at least 50% cotton, and that's our requirement for being able to use direct-to-garment printing.
Excellent. Okay, this is a statement on a question. This comes from a Wonder Raw in Portugal. On-demand production, and it's a good one to finish on. On-demand production is definitely the future, correct?
Of course.
With a question mark.
On-demand production is the future. And I don't think just in our industry either. I think there will be advancements into other industries and different product types where on-demand becomes more widespread.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I don't even think it's the future, it's the here and now for me. You know, it just makes sense. Yeah, I don't have to hold stock. I don't have to employ anyone anymore. I'm able to work on the things I need to work on, and I know that I've got the production side, the fulfillment side, and if you like, I've future-proofed the business because I know Alex is taking care of that side of it for me. So yeah,
I think that there are very few other industries where making to a vaguely expected demand and then discounting a huge volume of what you make and throwing away a significant share of that. There are very few other industries where that would be okay and that would be considered the norm. So I think it's, yeah, from my perspective, it's exactly the same. Like on-demand production, on-demand garment decoration, it has to be the future. And it is the here and now, 100%. From me and from Alex and from James and from the whole team at Kornit who've organised this, thanks very much for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed it and stay tuned for another in the series of Kornit UK Live.